Hi everybody, it's Crystal. So today I have a stitch tutorial for you, and it's a very, very beautiful one. It's a cluster post stitch tutorial. So you're gonna need to know how to do, the basics like single crochet and double crochet, and then you're gonna need to know how to do a front post double crochet and a double crochet 3 together cluster, which I'll show you how to do all these stitches in case you don't know how, but those are the stitches that are involved in this. And it is a 4-row repeat, very easy to do. This is the front side right here. So as you can see, here's your cluster row, and then the front post double, it will drop down and go kind of in the middle of the cluster there. So this is the front, and the back the front and back are not the same, but it's still pretty clean. I mean, it's clean on the back. But yeah, you can do it all in one color or different colors. It's really up to you, I think. And it's pretty solid. I see my hand back there. I'd probably give it it's like 95% solid. It'd be good for whatever you like to use it for. It's pretty flexible, but yeah, it's got a little bit of firmness to it. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Now do remember, this is just a stitch tutorial. I'm going to be teaching you how to crochet this particular post cluster stitch here. Like I said, you can do it. It's easy to do, and with it you can make whatever your heart desires. Now, the yarn and hook that you choose to use will be at your discretion, depending on what you choose to, make with it. Whatever you make, it's probably going to require something different. I usually use scrap yarn for my stitch tutorials, but I do have, this one is made with Red Heart Super Saver metallic, so it's a 4-weight acrylic, and then Nako Mona Lisa, which is also a 4-weight acrylic. So it's made with 4-weight acrylics, and I am using a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. But do remember, when I do stitch tutorials, I generally just grab yarn from my scrap bin, and then whatever hook is closest to me I use. It always depends on what you're making, the hook size and everything like that. So this stitch here is done, and any even number of stitches is what you want to start your chain. Depending on what you're making, blanket, scarf, I don't know, a dishcloth, a top, a sweater, well, yeah, anything. You just need to chain in an even number, all right, for however big that you want your piece to be. All right, so for my sample piece right here, I have chained 20 stitches. So we're going to start out with row 1, and we're going to do a single crochet in the second chain from our hook. We never count the one that's on our hook. So this would be 1 and this would be 2. And we go ahead and do a single crochet into that second chain. And then we're going to work across, and we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch for the length of your chain. So row 1, 1 single crochet in every stitch, and I will meet up with you at the end of the row. All right, when you make it to the end of row 1, you will now have 1 less single crochet than the number of chains that you had. So I started with a chain of 20, which was an even number. I now have a 19. So I have an odd number now, which would be correct. So we're going to go ahead and start row 2, and we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch right there. We're going to go into the very first stitch, and we're going to put a single crochet into that very first stitch. And now we will start the repeat of row 1 by chaining 1, skipping 1, and single crocheting into the next. So skip and single, and that's the repeat. Again, we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and single into the next. Chain 1, skip one, and single into the next. And we're going to go ahead and repeat this pattern of chain one, skip one, single until we make it to the end of row 2. Alright, I'm coming to the end of row 2, and you should be able to finish out a complete repeat. So I just did a single crochet here. I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to chain one, skip one, and single crochet my last. I'm going to switch colors here. So I like to tie off when I switch colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my single crochet here at the end and clip my yarn and tie off. And then I'm going to bring in my next color, which was what I'm going to be using for the cluster stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and start it in that same stitch there that I just finished there in. And I'm going to just use the tail of the yarn I just clipped in my new yarn and tie a little knot so they don't slip away, and later you can hide the tails or sew them or crochet them in as you go. All right, so now we're going to start row 3. So row 3 starts the repeat rows of the stitch. Rows 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's as I mentioned, it's a 4-row repeat. So we're going to go ahead and start with a chain 1 that does not count as a stitch, and we're going to turn our work. And we're going to go into this very first stitch here, and we're going to work a double crochet into that single crochet from the previous row. Okay, and now this next spot here, which is a chain 1 space, we're going to work a cluster stitch into the chain 1 spaces. All right, so after this double crochet, we don't chain or anything. We're going to go and do the cluster directly into this chain 1 space right here from the previous row. And this is how we're going to do it. It's a double crochet 3 together. So we're going to yarn over, and we're just going to go right into that chain 1 space and draw up a loop. It gives us 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2. And that leaves 2 left. And we're going to do that 3 times, that one being number 1. Again, we're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch and draw up a loop. Got 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2, which will leave us 3. We're going to do that one more time. We're going to yarn over and go into the same spot and draw up a loop. And we got 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2, which will leave us 4 loops. And we're going to yarn over and go through all 4 loops like that and chain 1. So that is the cluster that we are going to be working in each one of the chain 1 spaces. So we skip this single crochet here, and we just work into the next chain 1 space, and we do the cluster again. So we chained 1 there after the cluster, and now we're going to go into skip the single, and we're going to go into the next chain 1 space and work that cluster again. So we're going to yarn over, go into the chain 1 space and draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on our hook. We're going to do that 3 times, that one being number 1, and we're going to yarn over and go into the same space, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on our hook. That's 2 times. One more time, we're going to yarn over, go into the same space and draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on our hook. That will leave us 4. We're going to yarn over and go through all 4 loops and chain 1. And this is what we're going to continue until we get to the last stitch of our row. We're going to skip this single crochet here from the previous row and work a cluster into our next chain 1 space. And chain 1, just like that, skip the single and repeat. So I'm going to continue this, and I will meet back up with you at the last chain 1 space of row 3. All right, I'm coming to the end of row 3, and I just did my last cluster in my last chain 1 space. The only difference here is I do not want to chain 1 after my last cluster. So I did my cluster, I did not chain 1. I'm just going to yarn over and just go and double crochet directly into the last stitch of the row. And that will end row 3. Now we're going to keep this color on our hook, and we are going to chain 1 and turn our work like this. All right, so we're going to put a single crochet into the very first stitch. And then we're going to put a single crochet into the top of the cluster. So it's kind of like right there. See that? And we're going to put a single crochet in between the clusters of that chain 1 space in between, just like that. So now we're just going to work across, putting a single crochet into the top of each cluster, which is, if you pull it apart, right there, single crochet. I know I should not have used white, I do apologize. And then in between the clusters, the chain 1 right there. Single crochet in top of the cluster. Just pull it up a little bit and you'll be able to see. And again, it doesn't have to be exact, it's somewhere right there. And then single crochet in between the clusters, the chain 1 space, just right in between them. And top of the cluster, right there. And in between that chain 1 space. And we're going to go ahead and do this until we get near the end of row 4, and I will see you there, and we're going to do a color change at the end of row 4. So I'm just doing a single crochet in the top of every cluster and in between each of the clusters of the chain 1 space in between. Well, I'm coming to the end, so I'll just meet you there right now. How about that? I'm almost there, so I'll just finish it out here. All right, now when you make it here to the last cluster, we're going to single crochet in the last cluster, but there is no chain 1 space. We're just going to go ahead and single crochet into that double crochet from the previous row here at the end. Just like that. And I'm going to tie this off, and I'm going back to my other color. Going back to my other color. So, there's that. Okay. I'm going to bring my other color back in. We have 2 more rows left of the repeat. So I'm going to start that in that same single crochet there that I just stopped in. Tie my 2 tails here so they don't slip away from me. Take care of them later. I'm certain you could carry them up the side if you wanted. I like to take the hard route sometimes. So, alright, so now I'm going to chain 1 and turn for row 5 here. And I'm going to single crochet into that very first stitch. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So I'll just go right into that very first one and single crochet. Like that. And now I'm going to be working into my next cluster. So this is the double crochet, so we don't want to work in that. We want to work in this cluster down here. Okay, 2 rows down. 1, 2. And the cluster was a double crochet 3 together. So there's 3 double crochets there that are put together. We're going to be working in the middle one. And what we're going to do is a front post double crochet around that middle one. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go in that middle double crochet of that cluster around the post of it like that. And we are going to do a front post double crochet just like that. And now we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. One thing we have to do though is make sure that we leave one single crochet empty, the one that's behind this post stitch. This one right here. So we would single crochet in this one because that post stitch is acting as a stitch for that single crochet. So we don't want to go in it again or we'll have too many stitches. And that's the repeat. Now we're going to go over here to our next post stitch. Or I'm sorry, our next cluster, and we're going to work a post stitch around the middle double crochet of that cluster. So we're going to yarn over and drop down, and we're going to find, you can see that there's 3, go around that middle one there. So yarn over and kind of wiggle your hook in there, get around the post of that middle one, and work a front post double crochet. Like that. And then we're going to single crochet in the next. Remember not to get the one that's behind the post stitch that you just worked. Single crochet into the next, just like that. And this is what we're going to repeat all the way across. So again, we're going to come down here to our next cluster, and you find the middle double crochet, right there he is. And we're going to do a front post double around that middle one. It becomes really easy and quick once you front post double and single crochet in the next. Make sure you leave one unworked to take the place of that post stitch. So single crochet, and this is what we're going to repeat all the way across. So just wiggle your hook in there until you find it. Front post double and single into the next one, leaving one empty. Single into the next, yeah, leave that one empty, and repeat again. Just like that. That's what it starts to look like. Pretty stuff. I think it's pretty. It's a pretty stitch. So I'm going to continue this until I make it near the end of row 5, putting a front post double crochet in the middle double crochet of that cluster, and then single crocheting into the next stitch, making sure to leave one unworked behind that post stitch. Alright, I'll see you at the end of the row. Alright, I have come to the end of row 5. I just did a front post around my middle double crochet of that cluster, and if you take a quick peek, I got one stitch that I'm going to skip back there because that's what the post stitch is taking the place of, and then I have one stitch left. I'm going to single crochet in that last stitch. Now in row 5, and then we can start row 6. And actually row 6 is just a repeat of row 2. But it has to be in here we have to have the repeats like that so we can start again. So row 6, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Keeping this collar on our hook again. And we're going to single crochet into that very first stitch. And then we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip 1 and single crochet into the next. We're going to chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet into the next. And we're going to do this until we make it to the end. And if you take a look, you chain 1, and when you skip 1, you're skipping that post stitch, and you're single crocheting into the single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, single into the next. Chain 1, skip 1, and single into the next. And this is row 6, and this ends the repeat. Chain 1, skip 1, 1 stitch left, and right here I would tie off and change colors, and I would start again with row 3, which is the post stitch row, or the cluster row. So I just ended row 6. So then I would start again. Row 7 would be a repeat of row 3, which is the cluster row. Row 8 would be a repeat of row 4, which is the same color as the cluster row. It's the single crochet row. And then the next row would be the drop front post row, and then the single row again. And once you get it as big as you want it to be, that last row here, the last row 6, you can just do all single crochets across if you'd like. That way there's not gaps. Or you can just do another row of single crochet, you know, like just do single crochet and then single crochet in the chain 1 space, single crochet in the single crochet, single crochet in the chain 1 space. That is if you don't like the way it looks. I think it's fine just like this. Having those chain 1 spaces, it looks fine to me. But if you want to make it all, once you get it as big as you want it to be, you know, you keep repeating it, you know, after a while it starts to look like this. And once you get it as big as you want it to be, you can just make that last row 6 repeat a regular single crochet row. That's up to you. Whatever you want to do. It's your piece. You do it however you like. I actually ended on a post stitch row. I didn't even do a single crochet row at the top. See? I just did a completely different one. I didn't actually, I'm not done with this. I'm gonna continue. So I'm making something out of it. So I will be continuing. But I'll probably just end on this regular row like this. Regular 6 repeat. So that's it. You repeat rows 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Until you get it the size that you want it to be. And after a while, you'll see that it becomes very, very easy and very, very quick. You'll be able to hit that middle double crochet there in that cluster every time with that post stitch real quick. And you'll have something worked up in no time. Something beautiful, I'm sure. So, thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to check out my other ones. Hit that like and subscribe button if you did enjoy. And I'll see you guys on the next one, okay? Take care. Bye, guys.